Yo, what up, everyone? Mike Hill, the Wholesaling Titan here. And what I want to talk to you about today is how to overcome one of the biggest sticking points I see in wholesaling, and particularly among new wholesalers. Based on my personal experience starting this business with literally no money, and after mentoring for several years now, I'd say that there are probably about 5 primary reasons why people fail. And so today I want to focus in on one of those primary sticking points and explain to you why this can be really difficult to even recognize and why it's preventing you from doing deals. If you've known about wholesaling for any time and you haven't gotten a deal yet, or maybe you've done a few deals but you're having some trouble with consistency, then you're going to want to listen up. I often make the analogy that wholesaling is like getting in shape. Really anybody can do it. The information is out there. And yeah, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's not exceptionally hard. And yet probably more than half the people that start fail to reach their goal. So today we're going to talk about one of the biggest reasons why that is and what you can do about it. So I'm going to jump into some more specifics as we go, but I got to start with 30 seconds of background, talk to you about the inspiration for this video, which comes from a Facebook post that someone, posted the other day. And so I'm going to go ahead and read it to you here. So this person says, so there's been a moral issue that's been bothering me about wholesaling, and it's affecting my ability to really go full throttle with wholesaling. So basically, we're looking for desperate people who need and are struggling and really need help, and we're looking to get their property for the lowest price possible. This doesn't really sit right with me. Like, we're taking advantage of their situation and hoping they really don't know any better, intentionally keeping them naive. Like, what's stopping us from being a realtor and helping them get the most they can get for their home? Wouldn't that be the more ethical path to take? What's you guys' perspective? I'm open to how you guys interpret this. I might be thinking too much on this, or there could be holes in my thinking. Okay, so, I've heard a very similar sentiment from a lot of people, from a lot of my students, and this was something that I struggled with personally when I first got started in the business. So before I fully dive into this, let's talk about ethics and belief systems for just a second. And yes, I do believe very, very strongly in the importance of mindset, but this isn't just a, think positive speech that I know so many people are tired of. And I want to encourage you to watch this to the end because I'll get into some more specific how-to stuff. But we do need to start this discussion by talking about some belief patterns. And I also want to share a real-life story about a deal that I think will help you grasp, some of the concepts that I'm going to talk about here. Basically, if you don't watch to the end, you're going to miss out on the value of this video. And also at the end, I'm going to give you a really, really cool resource that I highly recommend that you check out. So a lot of the questions that I get on a daily basis are usually things that are very technical in nature. So this is things like, what's the best source of deals? What list should I use? Where can I find cash buyers? How much should I spend on direct marketing, on mailers, stuff like that. And then I get a lot of questions about logistical obstacles. A good 8 out of 10 times a wholesale deal is going to have some type of issue that you need to overcome. Things like unforeseen liens, violations, permit issues, stuff like that. Quick note on this while I'm on the topic. Most of these issues can be avoided if you just put your contract together properly from the start. The same way that you wouldn't, jump out of an airplane without a parachute and then ask for the best way to land safely, you want to protect yourself proactively. And that means putting, proper exit clauses in your contract, addressing things like who's paying for what, who's taking care of permits, addressing the vacancy status, things like that. And often when there's a problem like that, in the moment, usually means you kind of screwed up 5 steps back. So with that said, I do have a guide that lists a lot of the clauses that I use in my own contracts. It's called Ironclad Contract Clauses. I'll go ahead and drop that link in the description if you want to check it out. So yeah, anyway, there are a lot of issues like validating the deed and issues with the chain of title. It's typically things your title company is going to help you clear up. Actually got a student right now. He's dealing with a quit claim deed, which is kind of a pain, delaying his closing. But the point is that logistical issues like that happen all the time. And because we hear so often about these technical issues and they're so common and kind of obvious, this is the stuff that you see on a lot of videos, a lot of stuff you see on forums. And so that's what a lot of people tend to focus on. And most of these situations can be dealt with and overcome. But in my experience, and particularly as a mentor, The technical, more obvious obstacles like that aren't the primary issues that cause most new wholesalers to fail. Instead, what stops a lot of wholesalers is kind of what's buried in this Facebook post here. So let me explain. Now, you're probably already familiar with the fact that we have two parts to our brain. The subconscious part, which means, subconscious, below consciousness. That's the part of your brain that functions on autopilot. So this includes things like, even your heart beating and breathing and eyes blinking. And then you have the conscious or thinking part of your brain. Now, here's the thing. The vast majority of people grossly underestimate just how much of your brain operates at a subconscious level, and then they overestimate their ability to influence or override subconscious beliefs. Now, modern science has proven, and they can actually measure this stuff now, that our subconscious mind can process 40 million bits of information in a second. That is an insane amount of data. And let's contrast that with our conscious mind, which can only process about 40 bits of information per second. So basically, on a day-to-day basis, our subconscious mind runs 95% of our cognitive activity, whereas our conscious mind only runs about 5%. So what does that have to do with wholesaling? Well, let's go back to the question. Let's look at this question for a moment, right? And you can see the person that posted this has this assumption or doubt that somehow wholesaling is unethical. Now remember, the conscious mind deals with deliberate thought. It's right, your prefrontal cortex. And this is the stuff like creativity and decision making and evaluating situations, things that you're actively thinking about. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, is based purely on habit. So essentially, the subconscious mind is playing a program, and the majority of that program was, embedded and programmed into you when you were a child, and usually under the age of 7, when your brain was operating primarily in the theta brainwave state, which is a highly suggestive state of consciousness. And so, as the name implies, it runs at that subconscious level, meaning that you don't even know what's in there. So think about how crazy that is, man. You don't know what's running 95% of your cognitive activity. So that's why someone who's a smoker can know consciously that smoking is bad for them and still smoke. A lot of times that's because smoking was associated with some beneficial emotion. Maybe it was relaxing their nerves before an important exam or presentation, or maybe easing the pain after the death of a loved one. Maybe it made them feel cool or accepted as a part of a peer group. Maybe they were close to a family member that smoked. And despite knowing that this shit will kill you, they continue the detrimental behavior because that subconscious programming is operating in the background. Now, if you're a regular person, meaning that you're not like a psychopath or something, if you think something is bad or unethical, your subconscious brain isn't going to let you be a bad person. And so on that subconscious level, it will cause you to fail. And oftentimes that's going to come in the form of self-sabotage. So, even if you're saying to yourself consciously, hey, wholesaling is a great way to make money. I can quit my job. I can be my own boss. I can spend more time with my family, whatever it is. It's basically only 5% of your brain that's saying that. Versus the other 95% that you don't even realize is functioning, saying, no, we can't do this. Who stands a better chance of winning that battle? 5 versus 95. So a few ways to deal with this, right? The first thing you got to do is really have a solid understanding of what wholesaling is. You have to understand that wholesaling is supposed to be a win-win situation. So let me give you an example here. Let's say you have a homeowner. They have a house that's worth $100,000. They paid off $50,000 so far, and they owe $50,000 on the property. Suddenly, the owner loses their job, and then they miss the next few mortgage payments. So now they're in a bind, right? They're financially strapped. They can't wait several months to fix up, list, show, and sell a property through a real estate agent. So basically, they're down to two choices. So you got option one. You let the bank foreclose on their home. They get kicked out of the house. They have no alternatives, no money. Now they have a foreclosure added to their credit report, which is going to stay there for 7+ years and effectively prevent them from getting any type of credit or loan for a very, very long time. Now, option two, they sell the property to you for $60,000. So in this scenario, you get a great deal. The bank gets their money. Seller gets to walk away without a foreclosure or a negative mark on his or her credit report, which will allow them to possibly get a new loan in the future. And now they have $10,000 cash to downgrade to a more affordable home or possibly rent until they get back on their feet. And then you can turn around and sell that property to a cash buyer for $70,000. You make $10,000. The end buyer makes, let's say, $30,000, and it's a win-win-win-win situation, right? It's a win for the seller. The bank gets their money. It's a win for you. Win for the end buyer, and actually, it's a win for the community as well. Community and neighbors. That end buyer is going to typically make improvements, and a fixed-up home is usually going to boost property values in the neighborhood. So let me ask, what about that scenario sounds unethical to you? Right? So here's a real story that my mentor told me to kind of further illustrate this, right? So when my mentor was first coming up in the game, he had his own mentor, right? And at this time, his primary source of deals was knocking on doors. So one day he came across an older woman, she was in some type of financial trouble. I don't remember the exact details, but after speaking with her and getting the price recommendation from his mentor, he did not move forward with the offer because, in his own words, he felt that he was taking advantage of the elderly woman and he felt very guilty about it. So fast forward a little bit, and again, I don't recall the exact timetable, but my mentor's mentor, I believe his name was Ben, he called my mentor in to let him know that that same house had been sold to another investor. Now, this other investor had a real reputation for being kind of a shark, right? Just very cold and all about business, trying to take people for basically every penny they had. And because the woman was extremely motivated by circumstance, she sold the property to this other investor for less than what my mentor was offering. And the guy pretty much put her out in the street immediately. Now, Ben told my mentor that had he been the one to do the deal, he could have offered the woman a higher price and he could have assisted her further with the deal. So, for example, he could have not only let her walk away with some more money in her pocket, he could have negotiated to let her stay in the property for, say, an extra 30 days so she could have some time to get herself together, get on her feet. He could have assisted her with moving arrangements or provided a moving company. I mean, he could have driven there and helped her pack up her belongings. So the takeaway is that by not doing the deal, he did the homeowner and he did himself a great disservice. So I'm hoping that that's starting to resonate with you and kind of change your perspective on some of these things. You really have to see yourself as helping. These are folks a lot of times that don't have another option and they really do need help. Also, you got to realize that most sellers you speak to and most houses that you look at are not going to be deals. The idea is not to make a deal into a wholesale deal. It's to understand that deals already exist, but they're kind of hiding and you have to find them. It's a kind of a subtle difference, but it's something you really got to understand. You do have to make a lot of inquiries and a lot of offers to determine which ones are deals, and the other ones, man, you just walk away from. I just see too many people trying to force a deal. Think of yourself as a treasure hunter. You're digging for gold, right? You sift through hundreds of pounds of soil and dirt and rock just to find a little ounce of gold. You don't try to turn the rock and the soil and all that stuff into gold, but rather the gold is already there. So you got to do a lot of sifting and sorting, and you'll find more of what you don't want than what you do want. And it can be frustrating at times, but you keep sifting, and in this case, that means asking and making offers. And when you do find that gold, it makes all the dirt and all the shit that you had to go through well worth the effort. So you got to be okay with knowing that, most of the calls you make, most of the offers you make, they won't be deals, and that's okay. So let's go ahead and assume an average profit of just $10,000. If you make 100 offers every month, you should be doing more. That's not that much. And 99 of them are not wholesale deals. And one is having a 99% failure rate and only getting one deal a month would still give you a six-figure income per year. Also, I want you to keep in mind that you're not forcing anyone to sell. I don't believe in high-pressure sales tactics, and you got to respect people's right to choose. You're not forcing them, and you're not trying to keep them naive. In the case of probate, for example, a son or daughter might inherit a house from a deceased parent. That person might live in a different state. Now they're responsible for the maintenance and taxes and violations and accruing fines and just the headaches of having a deteriorating home. A lot of these people would much prefer to have a quick cash payment in their hand, even at a discount, rather than deal with a headache property. If you've ever gone GameStop or something like that, you bought a video game for $50, you played it, you're finished with it, you sell it back for $5, kind of might know what I'm talking about here. So the takeaway is that you really got to be congruent with what you're doing. If you're not, you are going to inevitably fail at this business. And again, it's going to happen on that subconscious level where you don't even know that it's happening. This is basically the theory of cognitive dissonance, which says that there's a tendency for individuals to seek consistency among their beliefs and opinions. That's your cognition. And when there's an inconsistency between attitudes or behaviors, that's the dissonance, something must change to eliminate that dissonance. So in this case, what that means is that if you have doubts about wholesaling being ethical or even achievable, that's a whole nother discussion for another video, your subconscious mind will self-sabotage you. You might not make that call, or you might not show up at that appointment. You might not make the offer to the point where you can't and you won't wholesale. I know this might sound overly simplistic, but it's one of the most important keys to success in this business, or really in any business. And it's just something you don't really hear about that often. So now you might say, well, Mike, that's all good, but how do you go about reprogramming your subconscious mind? Remember earlier I said that most people overestimate their ability to go ahead and influence their subconscious mind. And in your waking state, for example, your brain is operating primarily in the very active beta brainwave frequency. Now, when you're in that beta state, you can't download new programs to your subconscious. Ideally, you want to be in that theta state, which is much more open to suggestion. I mentioned a little bit earlier. And this is why things like positive affirmations simply don't work for a lot of people. So this is one of the things I'm going to be touching on in subsequent videos. I'll also be talking about it on my Instagram channel in more detail. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and defer to an expert. And I want to highly, highly recommend you check out the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. Among other things, he's an expert at the forefront of reprogramming your subconscious mind. He's giving you specific, tangible advice and techniques on exactly how to do it. You can Google search any of his videos. All of them are good stuff. It's all gold right there. But I'm going to leave a link in the description to one of his videos that gives a really good overview of reprogramming the subconscious mind. Video is only about 10 minutes long, but I highly, highly recommend you check it out. And then really you should just kind of binge watch all of his stuff after that. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, another really, really phenomenal resource that I recommend is a book, also an audiobook. It's called Reprogramming Your Subconscious: How to Use Hypnosis to Get What You Really Want by Gail Glassner-Torsky. This is not the type of party trick hypnosis that I know a lot of people are skeptical of. This is her life's work. I've had the opportunity to personally speak with her, and I can promise you that she is truly a master in this field. So go ahead and give it a listen. Check it out with an open mind. I promise you it can be such a game changer. I'll go ahead and throw a link in the description to her book as well. If you don't have an Audible account, your first audiobook is free, so definitely check that out. And, I know it's a little bit different from a lot of my more logistical or instructional-based videos, but I do hope that you got some value from it. So, again, go ahead and start with that YouTube video and hit me back. I'd love to hear your comments, see what you thought about it, hear your feedback. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram at MikeHillTWT for my live sessions where you can ask me questions, watch more content not available on the YouTube channel, and, of course, slide up in my DMs with any additional comments and questions. So as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and support of the channel. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. It does help the channel out a great deal. And be sure to hit that bell notification so you get an alert anytime I have new videos up. And just thanks again. Look forward to your questions and comments. And I'm going to get up out of here. So thanks again, and I will see you guys on the next video. All right, peace.